Hey, let's try something tonight. Forget the glossy postcards of red dirt roads and cute koalas. This isn't a documentary, and it's definitely not a vacation. We're heading into one of the harshest, loneliest, and most deceptive landscapes on Earth, the Australian Outback. Yes, it's vast. Yes, it's beautiful in that strange, sunburned way. But none of it cares if you survive the day. There are no friendly guides, no shaded trails, no helpful signs. Just silence, heat, and 1,000 ways to vanish without a trace. Out here, the ground moves, the shade burns, and every living thing, from the ants beneath your boots to the birds above your head, is better at this than you. Tonight, you're stepping into a place where the sky is endless, but the water isn't, where even the shadows lie, and your own map could lead you straight into nothing. If you've been enjoying these slow, unsettling bedtime journeys, a quick like or a subscribe goes further than you think. And hey, leave a comment with where you're listening from and what time it is there. Always wild to see where this sleepy community is tuning in. Now lower the lights. Slow the playback to 0.8x. Let the hum of heat and the distant cry of something hunting in the dark carry you under. This isn't just the Outback, it's a dare, and tonight it's your bedtime story. You step out of the last known patch of paved road, and everything in front of you seems flat, dry, and silent. The red dust puffs beneath your feet, like powder. There's a strange stillness in the air, as if the landscape is holding its breath. You look around and think, this is nothing, just sun, rock, dust, and heat. But that thought is your first mistake. The Australian Outback is often portrayed as barren, lifeless, void of movement. But the reality is far more complex and far more dangerous. What looks like emptiness is an intricate system of survival, camouflage, and observation. Not by you, but of you. You're not the observer. Here. You are being observed. The stillness masks 100 kinds of presence. That small rock near your boot? It's not a rock. It's a trapdoor spider's burrow. The tiny shimmer you thought was heat haze? It might be a snake, sliding silently just out of sight. The stick you just stepped over had eyes. And behind that patch of scrub, a goanna lizard watches you with ancient, unblinking patience. Everything in the Outback has evolved to stay still, blend in, wait. You're new here. You sweat. You fidget. You squint against the sun. You think you're alone, but you're not. Birds of prey hover so high they look like dots. Their vision is sharp enough to spot a twitch in a mouse a mile away, and you're moving far more than that. Even the ants are coordinated, methodical, marching in lines, tunneling beneath you. They sense vibration, temperature, and change. You are a walking disturbance. You check your surroundings again and nothing seems different. But there's that feeling. The one in your stomach. The one that says, something knows you're here. It's not paranoia. It's instinct. And out here, ignoring your instincts is dangerous. The heat isn't just physical. It weighs on your awareness. You start to lose the boundary between what's real and what's imagined. That rustle, was it wind or something more? That flicker in your peripheral vision, a mirage or movement. You reach for your canteen. It's already warm, metallic, unsatisfying. You drink anyway, then wipe your forehead. The sweat is gone before your hand meets your skin. It's already been stolen by the air. And the landscape? It hasn't changed. It still looks like nothing. But it's not nothing. It's watching. You decide to keep walking. You haven't seen another person in hours, but the sun has barely shifted. Time moves differently here. It stretches and contracts like the wavering air on the horizon. Minutes feel like hours, and yet the day disappears quickly. Each step feels heavier. Not from fatigue, not yet, but from caution. You start to realize the terrain isn't consistent. That flat ground is riddled with fissures, burrows, and sudden drops. You nearly twist your ankle on a crevice barely an inch wide but deceptively deep. Nature's snares are not always dramatic. Often they're just waiting patiently beneath a layer of dust. You pass a clump of brush and hear a faint click, not mechanical, biological. Perhaps the sound of a lizard's claws scuttling across stone. Perhaps the dry snap of a centipede moving through dead leaves. Perhaps nothing at all. But in the outback, even nothing at all is usually something. You start to notice things you hadn't before. Tiny burrows with ridges smoothed by movement. Piles of dry scat that weren't there an hour ago. A skink flashes past your foot, so fast it seems unreal. The world here doesn't move like your world. It pulses slowly, then explodes into motion for brief, decisive moments. The coloration around you begins to shift. It's not just red, it's ochre, rust, maroon, bronze. Even the shadows have weight. You crouch to examine a rock formation, and the heat radiating off its surface is almost painful. The rock isn't just warm, it's a battery, releasing the sun's fury back into the air. Your breath comes harder now. The dust coats your tongue. You remove your hat for a second. A mistake. The sunlight slams into your scalp like a hammer. Your head throbs. You can feel the burn starting already, even through sunscreen. You put the hat back on, tighter this time. Secure. Somewhere to your left, you hear a low rattle. Not loud, not aggressive. A warning. Your body reacts before your mind does. You freeze, you scan, and then you see it. Half buried beneath the bush, perfectly still except for the tip of its tail. A western brown snake. Venomous. Fast. You back away slowly, step by step. It doesn't follow. Not yet. When you finally breathe again, your heart is racing. You hadn't noticed how loud it was until now. The outback doesn't echo, but it amplifies what's inside you. Every beat, every fear, every hesitation. You keep walking, but you know now, you're not in control. You're not even part of this system. You're an intruder. And everything here, every grain of sand, every wing beat overhead, every whisper of wind, is aware of your intrusion. The outback doesn't roar. It watches. And that's more dangerous. The first light of morning doesn't greet you. It blinds you. The golden edge of the horizon flares into existence like the opening of a furnace, painting the dusty landscape in hues of fire. You squint, your pupils constricting to pinpricks, and that's when you realize something strange. You have no idea where you are. The track you thought you were following has disappeared. There's no trail, no marker, no orientation point. Just rock, sand, and silence. You turn in a slow circle. Everything looks the same. The scrub bushes are identical. The termite mounds are eerily symmetrical. The sun hasn't even reached its peak and already you're disoriented. Your GPS lost signal hours ago. Your phone battery died not long after. There is no signal, no cloud service, no map that matters now. What remains is your memory, and memory out here is unreliable. You thought you were prepared. You had studied satellite maps, watched documentaries, read articles. But none of that told you how much the ground shifts beneath your feet. Tracks vanish with the wind. Landmarks rearrange themselves. Time evaporates. You may have only walked for 30 minutes, or was it 3 hours? You consider retracing your steps. But where would that lead? You can't even determine where you started. You try to find the sun's position to get your bearings, but its light reflects off the earth in so many directions that shadows don't behave the way you expect. And besides, the outback sun doesn't guide. It deceives. The landscape isn't just foreign, it's alien. You feel small, not just in size, but in importance. The sky stretches so wide it could swallow your name. The horizon curves in ways that make you question your depth perception. The air is dry but not still. It vibrates faintly, like invisible static humming across your skin. Your mouth is dry. You take another sip from your canteen, calculating the remaining sips. The water is already hot, tasting faintly of rubber and metal. You ration it anyway. You consider how much you've sweated already. You consider how much you will. You consider the possibility of finding a natural water source. and discard it. A flock of galas screeches overhead, pink wings flashing against the blue. You follow them with your eyes, hoping they'll lead to something. A stream, a shade tree, a sign of civilization. But they veer off into the distance, uncaring. You're alone again. You know what lost feels like in the city. It's frustrating, inconvenient. Here, it's existential. There are no wrong turns because there are no turns at all. Only directions. Endless directions, and none of them belong to you. The sun climbs higher and the air shimmers with heat. You see it. A dark patch in the distance, a promise of relief. Maybe a rock outcrop or a clump of trees. Something to block the relentless sunlight. You adjust your direction, walking toward it with purpose. Your thoughts already imagining the coolness of shade, the momentary sanctuary from the glare. But the Outback is a master illusionist. What looks like a tree might be a twisted stump. What appears as shadow is just a trick of the light, a darker patch of scorched earth. You finally arrive at your destination, only to realize the shade you saw was a thin sliver, barely enough to cover a backpack. The rock formation offers no reprieve. It radiates heat like a stove, warming the air around it to unbearable levels. Your body begins to rebel. Sweat pours out of you, but provides no cooling. It evaporates instantly. Your clothes cling to your skin, drenched and stiff with salt. You press yourself against the rock, trying to escape the sun's rays, but the heat stings your back. You feel it on your scalp, your ears, the tops of your feet through your shoes. The Outback is relentless. You take out your map, hoping to find another possible shelter. The paper crinkles nearly brittle from the dry air. It shows a waterhole several kilometers ahead, but you hesitate. Is it still there? Is it dry? Even if it exists, will it help? As you move forward again, you begin to hallucinate. A tree that wasn't there before. A pool that glimmers and vanishes as you approach. Your thoughts are no longer your own. The heat is in your brain now, fogging your reason. You think about lying down, just for a second, just to rest. But you remember what you've read about people who do that, who never get back up. And so you press on. The Outback isn't just hot. It's an oven of mirages and lies. And shade? That's the cruelest lie of all. The heat in the Australian Outback doesn't just weigh on you, it invades you. The moment you take your first few steps, your body begins its natural process of cooling. Sweat. But out here, sweat behaves differently. It evaporates faster than you can feel it, stealing away your hydration before your brain registers thirst. You're walking steadily now, every inch of your body damp with effort, but it's not the sticky kind of sweat you expect. It vanishes in moments, leaving behind nothing but salt stains on your shirt, eye, dry mouth, and an increasingly cloudy mind. Your skin feels oddly cool, a dangerous trick. That's not comfort. That's the wind and dry air siphoning moisture straight off your body like a sponge. You don't notice how much water you've lost until your muscles begin to ache in a strange, unfamiliar way. Your calves cramp. Your fingers start to tingle. You lick your lips and taste nothing. Not dryness, emptiness. Your heartbeat becomes audible. Not thudding, pulsing, like someone turned up the volume inside your skull. Your temples tighten. A faint headache blooms just above your eyes, a soft throb that spreads like wildfire. You reach for your water bottle and sip. Too little, too late. The water's warm, metallic, unrefreshing. But you drink anyway, even as your body rebels. It wants rest. It wants shade. It wants relief. And the Outback offers none. You feel disoriented now. Distances seem strange. A tree on the horizon looks closer than it is, and you stumble toward it, misjudging the ground. Your vision narrows. Peripheral awareness fades. Colors shift. You see orange, red, brown, all blending together in one relentless smear. And then comes the dizziness. A slow sway in your head like you've been on a boat for too long. You stop, you crouch, but the ground is hot. You feel it burning through your clothes, scalding your knees, your palms. You rise again, unwilling, but forced. There's no good choice. Only keep going. By the time you realize how dehydrated you are, it's already too late to reverse it quickly. Your body isn't warning you anymore, it's conserving, it's retreating, prioritizing blood flow to essential organs. That fog in your brain, that's your body dimming the lights. And still your sweat disappears before it can cool you. You never feel it run, only the silence it leaves behind. You're drying out, and the day is just beginning. The horizon shimmers with promise. Pools of water ripple in the distance, dancing just out of reach. You quicken your pace, not because you believe it, but because your body does. Logic has no foothold in the outback when thirst becomes the only truth. You're walking through land that hasn't seen rain in months, perhaps years. The ground is cracked and powdery, dotted with dry shrubs that offer no nourishment. The few trees you pass aren't trees at all, just skeletons of what once was, their twisted limbs reaching toward the sky like withered fingers. Your lips are cracked, your tongue thick and slow. Breathing becomes an effort, each inhale laced with dust. And still the mirage glows ahead. It's cruel, almost personal. You know it's false. You know it's light and heat colliding. But your body lunges for it, your steps heavy with desperation. In the outback, mirages are more than visual tricks. They are psychological warfare. You start second-guessing everything. That shadow, was it a tree or just a trick of the light? That movement, animal or illusion? You blink more now, trying to clear your eyes. It only makes things worse. Your canteen rattles, empty. The sound is loud, mocking. You shake it again, hoping somehow there's a drop hiding in the corner. There isn't. You knew that. But hope doesn't care. It clings, even when reason has long since packed up and left. You reach a depression in the earth, a place where water once gathered. The soil is hard-packed, cracked like ancient leather. You kneel. Your fingers scrape at the dirt, delusional. You tell yourself that if you dig, you might find moisture, but the only thing that comes up is heat. You look around and realize the animals are gone, even the insects. They know. They've burrowed, flown, hidden. You are alone, exposed. Not just to predators, but to the brutal indifference of nature. A fly buzzes near your ear. You swat at it too late. It lands again. Then another joins. They circle your face, drawn to the salt and heat. You try to ignore them. You fail. Your movements are sluggish, lacking strength. Swatting becomes waving. Waving becomes resignation. The sun shifts. Shadows grow longer. The mirage ahead vanishes, replaced by another. Closer this time. More convincing. It looks like a river bend. Trees on either side. Cool, shaded banks. You almost cry. You don't, though. Your body has no water left for tears. And still you walk. Toward nothing. Through everything. In the Australian Outback, moisture is life. And life here is always thirsty. From the moment you enter, you begin to lose water. Not just from sweat, but from every breath, every blink, every exhale. The sun above you isn't just a source of heat. It's a relentless siphon, drawing every ounce of moisture from your skin, your lungs, your clothes. And it's not alone. You sit for a moment, hoping to rest. But the rocks beneath you are hot, porous, and greedy. They leach warmth from your body and moisture from your clothing. Your shirt sticks to your back, not because it's wet, but because the fabric is stiffening with salt. Your lips taste of dust and salt and iron. Beneath your boots, the ground itself seems to breathe, cracking, shifting, inhaling whatever humidity it can trap. Ants crawl from below, searching for trace elements of food or water. Their movements are frantic, efficient. Even the smallest creatures here waste nothing. A drop of your sweat might sustain an entire insect colony. They're counting on it. Every plant you pass has evolved to hoard water with obsessive precision. Some have needles instead of leaves to reduce evaporation. Others store liquid deep inside fibrous roots, hidden beneath meters of cracked soil. Try digging for it, and you'll be greeted with dust and the sound of your own breath growing shorter. Your body, already dehydrated, begins to respond with desperation. Your mouth grows sticky, your nose crusts inside, your throat burns. Even your eyes seem reluctant to blink, conserving tears as though they were diamonds. You begin to hallucinate the feel of humidity, a cool breeze, the shadow of a cloud, but they never arrive. Instead, the wind brushes past like a furnace blast. You find a small animal burrow and peer in, desperate for some indication of water. But inside it's just cool darkness and silence. The creatures here know better than to share. Their survival depends on secrecy and stillness. Your presence is an offense. Your thirst, a signal of weakness. A lizard skitters by, thin, dry-skinned, silent. It pauses to lap at a spot on a rock, where your shadow offered a brief moment of reprieve from the sun. It doesn't thank you. It vanishes just as quickly. Above, wedge-tailed eagles circle, searching for movement. Not prey, weakness. A staggering traveler, a downed roo, a fallen bird. Water loss is death, and death means sustenance. You move again, slower this time. Each step feels like lifting a sandbag. Your canteen is dry. Your tongue sticks to the roof of your mouth. And yet, your body keeps sweating. Not because you have enough to spare, but because the heat demands it. The process continues even when it puts you in danger. Your skin begins to flush, a sign of overheating. But there's nothing to be done. There's no tree, no shade, no shelter. Only the searing ground, the empty sky, and your dwindling reserves. Even the rocks seem to mock you, sponge-like in their dryness, as if they've stolen what should have been yours. You kneel beside one, press your hand against its surface. It's hot, absorbing, indifferent. Here, everything wants your water. The animals, the plants, the soil, even the wind. And if you can't protect it, they will take it. In most wilderness settings, animals flee at the first sign of a human presence. But in the Australian Outback, the predators don't scatter. They watch. They wait. And they know the terrain far better than you ever will. Here, survival doesn't come from speed. It comes from patience. As the sun rises higher and the landscape bakes in golden heat, you begin to realize that what you can't see is often more dangerous than what you can. You walk past open plains, rock formations, dry creek beds, and through all of it, you feel the gaze of unseen creatures. It's a feeling, subtle and steady, that crawls along your spine. You are being watched. The first to notice you is likely the dingo. These wild dogs have adapted perfectly to the outback's rhythms. Slender, sandy-colored, with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. They don't bark. They follow. A dingo might trail you for hours, curious, calculating. They're not foolish enough to strike when you're alert, hydrated, or armed. But give it time. When your stride slows and your limbs falter, they'll know. They always know. Next, perhaps the monitor lizard, a goanna. Towering at nearly 2 meters with a forked tongue and dragon-like gait, it doesn't chase prey. It ambushes. It digs, climbs, disappears into crevices. You might hear the scrape of its claws on stone before you see it. Or you might see nothing at all. Just the sudden absence of small creatures in the area. The silence that signals its approach. Insects, too, take their toll. Not just the annoying buzz of flies, but the biting persistence of ants, wasps, and ticks, each with their own role in this slow dismantling of your comfort, your resolve, your strength. They don't run. They nest, wait, and endure. Further in, the red kangaroo. It's not a threat, not directly, but it watches, standing upright with its powerful tail anchoring its balance. It stares, unblinking as you approach, as if it senses something you don't. In truth, it does. Kangaroos conserve energy in ways you cannot. They don't move unless absolutely necessary. Their stillness is calculated, honed over millennia. Birds overhead offer no warning calls. The silence isn't emptiness. It's coordination. The Outback's ecosystem is tuned to balance. Every predator that waits knows that motion wastes calories, evaporates moisture, and reveals intent. So they wait. Even the most dangerous predator here, the saltwater crocodile far north, spends 23 hours a day doing nothing. And yet when it moves, it's explosive, decisive, the ultimate example of patience refined into lethality. You walk on, oblivious to the eyes hidden behind bark, beneath rocks within shadows. You assume motion means danger. Here, it's the stillness that should frighten you, because everything here is waiting, not passively, not lazily, but strategically, waiting for you to tire, to misstep, to make noise, to forget, just for a second, that this place was never meant for you. Patience in the Outback is more than a strategy. It's an ancient art embedded in the DNA of its wildlife. The creatures here don't merely wait in silence. They anticipate, measure, and adapt. And their stillness? It's a kind of wisdom you don't yet understand. Take the death adder. A master of stillness, it curls beneath the sand with only its tail tip exposed. That tail, colored and shaped like a worm, wiggles just enough to lure curious prey. When something bites, it bites back, faster than your eye can track. The venom isn't just a tool. It's an evolutionary masterpiece attacking nerve endings, rendering muscles useless. It doesn't chase its meal, it crafts its moment. Then there's the thorny devil, a lizard so covered in spines it looks like a walking cactus. You'd think it's too slow to survive. But survival here isn't about the chase. It's about water collection. It gathers moisture through capillary grooves, on its skin, drinking with its body. You might walk right past one and never notice, and it hasn't moved in hours. But it's drinking, living, watching. Even the smaller predators know the rhythm. The taipan snake, considered one of the deadliest on Earth, rarely strikes humans. Not because it can't, but because it doesn't waste energy. It lurks in crevices, in shaded rock cracks, aware that waiting is safer than risking. And spiders, funnel webs, redbacks, weave their homes not for chaos, but for geometry, precision. Their webs shimmer only slightly in the light, their layers camouflaged within tree bark or beneath leaf litter. They're not aggressive, but provoke them, misstep near them. The result is swift, clinical. Birds like the tawny frogmouth sit motionless, mimicking the branches they perch upon. With eyes half closed and feathers fluffed, they become bark, shade, shadow. Even in flight, they move with eerie silence, as if the wind itself parts for them. They do not flee. They blend. You begin to notice it now. The rhythm of waiting. The quiet intelligence behind the eyes that meet yours, just briefly, before disappearing again. A hare watches you from a patch of grass that looked like dirt a second ago. A stick insect clings to a branch you brushed past. None of these animals are here for you specifically, but all of them notice you. All of them know that motion can mean death, and stillness, survival. And as the heat wears on, and your muscles tighten, and your thoughts drift, you begin to feel it too. The pull toward stillness. You crouch more often, you scan less. Your eyes blur in the light. And in that moment of slow surrender, you are more like them than ever. But unlike them, you don't belong here. And the Outback never forgets. It's easy to think of animals as impulsive. Chase, flee, pounce. Actions that unfold in moments. But here, in the Outback, action is only the punctuation at the end of long observation. The land breeds thinkers, strategists, predators who plan as much as they stalk. The wedge-tailed eagle is one such creature. Towering wingspan, keen vision, it doesn't just soar, it surveys. With eyes sharp enough to detect movement from kilometers away, it circles on thermals, conserving energy while calculating trajectories. You might never see it descend, but if it does, the strike will be surgical. A rabbit, a lizard, even a weakened kangaroo, and you, a stumbling human, dehydrated and slow, are not excluded from its notice. Then there's the feral cat. Not the domestic kind, but a wild, elusive hunter responsible for the extinction of many native species. It pads silently through the spinifex, low to the ground, camouflaged by mottled fur. You might think it's harmless. It's not. It's a specialist in waiting. It'll sit for hours at a burrow's edge, unmoving, until its moment arrives. In the cool hours of twilight, the landscape shifts. Shadows stretch. Colors drain. But the patience of the outbacks, animals intensifies. Night is when the most cunning predators rise. The marsupial quoll, small yet ferocious. The ghost bat, silent in flight but lethal in ambush. Each honed for dark strategy. Each another reminder that movement here isn't power. Control is. Even the crocodile many kilometers away in the billabongs echoes the theme. Submerged for hours, days even, it lurks, observes. It waits for routine, for patterns, for weakness, waiting not out of laziness, but out of certainty. It doesn't question if an opportunity will come. It knows it will. And then there's the scorpion, buried beneath the dust, invisible until your boot stirs its world. Its venom is a final act of retribution for not noticing what was waiting underneath. You begin to understand the lesson of this place, that nothing reveals itself through haste, that power in this desert belongs to those who know how to disappear, those who understand that survival is not about the fastest strike, but the longest. Wait. Your breathing becomes shallow, your feet drag, you crouch under the illusion of rest, but the outback sees you, and it waits. In the outback, silence lies. The vast stretches of desert, the empty salt pans, the rust-colored ridges, they give the illusion of solitude. But in truth, the landscape is never empty. You're never alone. From the moment your boots crunch against the scorched earth, life around you takes note. Not in obvious ways, no stampedes or calls or snapping twigs. It's subtler than that. A shift in the wind, a faint rustle that stops when you turn, eyes that blink from a bush and vanish before you're sure they were there. The outback is inhabited by watchers, nocturnal marsupials you'll never see unless you're awake at the wrong hour, reptiles that bask just out of reach during the day and return to crevices at dusk, and countless insects, burrowing, biting, whirring past your ear only once before disappearing. The first sign is usually auditory, a chirp from nowhere, a repeated thrum. You might think it's mechanical, but there's no machinery here. Just a cicada, a wasp, or the alarm call of a bird that spotted you long before you spotted it. Then there are the tracks, fresh in the sand, some small, the delicate scribbles of geckos or beetles, others larger, pad marks, claw prints, tail drags. You didn't make them. You don't know when they appeared. But they weren't there earlier. In the trees, parrots squawk and shift position as you pass. Not afraid, just watchful. A goanna freezes halfway up a trunk, not fleeing but calculating. A snake slithers off the trail, its body leaving a disappearing trail that is swallowed again by the wind. And the humans. Few, but always watching. Rangers, trackers, bushmen, people who live with the land, not against it. They see you from ridges, through binoculars, from shaded tents. You never see them, but your presence leaves traces, and they read them like pages in a book. The Outback's Aboriginal. Communities have lived here for tens of thousands of years. Their understanding of presence goes beyond what you can perceive. They know when someone is nearby, how the birds behave, how the lizards run, how the air smells. To them, silence is filled with information. At night you pitch a tent. The wind flaps against it. You tell yourself it's peaceful. But the dingoes are still there, closer now. You hear them breathing before you hear them bark. And then there's the owl. Silent on approach, perched meters above, watching your tiny light flicker through the mesh. You lie down, try to sleep. But the rustle at your feet, the buzzing overhead, the shape outside your tent wall, none of it is imagined. Because in the outback, being alone is never the same as being unobserved. The Australian Outback is a land of extremes, and nowhere is this more evident than in its relentless relationship with heat. From the moment the sun rises, the sky above becomes a white-hot dome, amplifying the landscape's hostility. There are no soft dawns here, only sharp shifts from cool shadows to searing light. The blue sky that greets you at sunrise turns into a brutal glare by midday. It doesn't just shine, it scorches. The sun in the outback is not passive. It hunts you. It draws moisture from your body, your clothes, your lips. You feel it on your skin as a dry itch at first, then a sting, then a burn. Sunscreen evaporates. Sweat turns to salt. Your mouth dries, your eyes redden, and your breath feels like it's being baked from within. There's no escaping it, no real shelter unless you've planned well in advance. And while the sky attacks from above, the ground retaliates from below. Sand heats to blistering temperatures. Rocks, especially the dark iron-rich ones, become too hot to touch. Rubber soles begin to soften. Plastic buckles warp. If you drop your gear, it might melt. If you fall, your palms will sear on contact. Every step you take releases bursts of shimmering heat that rise like ghosts. But the heat is not the only danger. The earth here bites in other ways. Spiny plants like spinifex conceal barbed tips that can pierce skin and inject a burning itch. Tiny ants swarm out from underfoot, crawling up socks, biting in synchronized rhythm. Thorny devils lounge camouflaged along footpaths, their armor as sharp as it is invisible. Even dry twigs can splinter into your skin with surprising precision. The air near the ground ripples with heat waves. Distances warp. A shimmer across the horizon can hide a cliff's edge, or a snake resting motionless in the dirt. And speaking of snakes, they too respond to the heat. They move to shade, to shadow, to places where your hands might reach when you're not looking. The inland taipan, the world's most venomous snake, blends perfectly with the dirt. A misstep here isn't just painful, it can be fatal. Then there are the flies. They thrive in the heat. Black, persistent, fearless. They swarm your face, your eyes, your nostrils, your mouth. You wave them away, but they return instantly. Flies in the outback have adapted to the rhythms of suffering. They follow exhaustion like vultures. By late afternoon, the heat has burrowed into your bones. Your water is warm. Your body slows. Thinking becomes difficult. Walking feels like dragging yourself through an invisible fire. Your brain, fogged by dehydration and overexertion, begins to confuse mirage with memory. When the sun finally dips, it doesn't retreat. It simmers just below the horizon, its afterglow clinging to the dust in the air. And even as night arrives, the rocks retain the day's fury. The warmth beneath your feet feels like the breath of a giant beast. In the outback, the elements aren't indifferent. They are aggressive. The sky burns and the ground bites, and between them you're merely a fragile form, struggling to endure. In most environments, humans have learned to dominate through fire, tools, weapons, and walls. But here in the outback, none of that matters. Because in this vast ancient land, you are no longer at the top of the food chain. You've stepped into an ecosystem where the predators are older, better adapted, and more patient than you could ever be. Let's begin with the saltwater crocodile. Though typically associated with coastal regions and tropical waterways, it is not unheard of to encounter these ancient beasts in northern billabongs and rivers that edge the outback. This apex predator hasn't changed much in 100 million years. It doesn't need to. It's perfected its method. lie in wait, strike without warning, and drag prey underwater with terrifying force. Its eyes and nostrils are positioned to remain hidden just above water, giving no sign of its presence. It doesn't growl or roar. It doesn't chase. It waits, invisible, until you come too close. And when it attacks, the violence is sudden and final. Further inland, the threat slithers instead of swims. The inland taipan, nicknamed the fierce snake, is the most venomous snake on Earth. A single bite contains enough neurotoxins to kill dozens of adult humans. But you won't hear it rattle or hiss. It won't rear up dramatically. The taipan moves with ghost-like silence through cracks and shadows, avoiding unnecessary movement to conserve energy in the unforgiving terrain. Its strike is lightning quick and precise, injecting venom that begins shutting down your nervous system before you've even realized you were bitten. Spiders, too, rule this domain. The redback and funnel web spiders are not massive or showy, but they possess venom that causes intense pain, muscle spasms, and in rare cases, death. They lurk in crevices, under logs, in boots left outside for too long. Their webs are delicate, easy to miss, and their bites, while rarely fatal thanks to anti-venom, can leave you incapacitated for days if you manage to get help. Even the less celebrated predators command respect. Raptors, like the wedge-tailed eagle, dominate the sky with wingspans over 2.5 meters. They don't just eat carrion, they hunt. They strike with talons strong enough to break bone. There are documented cases of these birds attacking drones, small livestock, and even humans when provoked. At ground level, the dangers continue. Dingoes, wild dogs that roam in packs, are intelligent, adaptive hunters. While they often scavenge, they have no hesitation in cornering injured or weakened prey. And at night, when your vision fails, and fatigue clouds your judgment, they are more emboldened than ever. You begin to realize that your senses, dulled by comfort, reliant on artificial warning signs, are not suited for this place. There are no fences to keep danger out, no alarms, no second chances. Here, predators don't posture, they don't warn, they wait. And in this vast silence, they are always watching. Even creatures that aren't traditionally categorized as predators take on new dimensions in the outback. The centipede, for example, isn't something you'd normally fear, until you meet the Scolopendra morsitans, a massive aggressive centipede that can exceed 15 centimeters in length. Its bite is not just painful, it burns with venom that causes dizziness, nausea, and fever. It's armored, fast, and actively hunts insects, small reptiles, and even frogs. And it hides in bedding, shoes, and camp equipment left unattended. Then there are the cane toads, an invasive species originally introduced to control pests. While they may seem harmless, their toxic secretions can kill predators that attempt to eat them. The threat they pose is more ecological than personal, but it speaks to a deeper truth. Even the unintended elements of this environment are dangerous. Nature here mutates and adapts in aggressive ways, and sometimes the predators wear disguises. Consider the owl. At a glance, it's a calm, quiet bird, a nighttime sentinel. But the barn owl hunts with precision, snatching rodents, reptiles, and even birds mid-flight. Its flight is utterly silent, designed by evolution to offer no warning. Its face, shaped like a disc, channels sound directly to its ears, allowing it to hear the rustle of prey in the dark, even beneath layers of leaves. Predation in the outback isn't always about sharp teeth or toxic fangs. Sometimes it's about patience and the ability to outlast. The trapdoor spider builds a silk-lined burrow with a lid, perfectly camouflaged to look like the ground around it. It waits, sometimes for months, just below the surface. When prey passes by, a cricket, an ant, or an unfortunate toe, it bursts upward with blinding speed. The ground itself becomes the mouth. Even the sky cannot be trusted. Storms roll in suddenly, and with them come aerial predators like kites and hawks, riding the winds, scanning the movement below for opportunity. They don't strike randomly. They target exhaustion, They target fear. The moment you falter, hesitate, or expose yourself, something notices. The Outback enforces a different kind of hierarchy. It's not about size, it's not about roar or claw. It's about awareness, the ability to see before being seen, to act before reacting. And that's where you, the outsider, fail. Your senses are too slow, your reactions too uncertain. The land isn't hostile because it wants to be. It's hostile because that's what survival here requires. You're not just in a new environment, you're in an arena, and every living thing around you has been training for generations. You've just arrived. The Australian Outback is often romanticized as a place of stunning sunsets, red dust, and vast silence. But beneath that silence lies something far more insidious. A gauntlet of venomous life forms that don't need to chase you. They simply need you to make a mistake. Let's start with the plants. Yes, even the plants here can kill you. Take the gastrolobium shrubs, known to locals as poison peas. These unassuming bushes produce leaves rich in fluoroacetate, a naturally occurring toxin that disrupts cellular respiration. Livestock that graze on them die within hours. Aboriginal Australians knew to avoid them instinctively. But to a traveler unfamiliar with the Outback's botany, the mistake is easy. Some of these plants grow near watering holes, and it only takes a few leaves in your water supply to make it lethal. Moving on to spinifex grass, it doesn't inject venom, but its barbed tips break the skin and leave behind microsplinters that fester. Infected wounds in the Outback are no joke. Without proper cleaning, even a minor scratch can evolve into a deep abscess, further weakening your ability to survive. Then come the invertebrates. The funnel web spider, concentrated in regions along the eastern Outback, is responsible for some of the most medically significant spider bites in the world. Its venom contains delta hexatoxins, which interfere with the human nervous system, causing muscle spasms, rapid heartbeat, and in severe cases, death. And the worst part? These spiders don't flee from water. They can survive underwater for hours by trapping air bubbles. That water hole you're considering might already be occupied. The redback spider, closely related to the black widow, lurks in sheds, under rocks, and inside boots. Their venom is neurotoxic, and while fatalities are rare due to antivenom, the pain they inflict is described as excruciating, radiating across the body in pulses of fire. Don't forget the bull ant. Unlike most ants, this one doesn't rely on numbers. It relies on ferocity. Up to 40 millimeters in length, it's equipped with powerful jaws and a venomous sting that causes intense burning, swelling, and in allergic individuals, anaphylaxis. The worst part? It chases. If you stumble upon a nest, they won't just defend, they'll pursue. On the reptile front, the inland taipan, previously mentioned, reigns supreme in toxicity. But other snakes deserve equal fear, the death adder, with its lightning-fast strike, and the tiger snake, often found near creeks or temporary water sources. Their venoms affect blood clotting, respiration, and the heart. Even marine life intrudes. The box jellyfish and blue-ringed octopus, while coastal, occasionally make appearances in inland estuarine systems during high tides or floods. Their venom is so potent that victims can collapse in minutes. But perhaps the most dangerous toxin of all is one you bring with you: ignorance. The Outback doesn't scream its threats, it whispers them. A plant that looks like shade could be toxic. A still puddle could contain microscopic parasites. A seemingly harmless insect might leave you paralyzed. In the Australian Outback, venom is not a rarity. It's a design principle. Everything that survives here has had to either wield poison or evolve a resistance to it. And you, the visitor, possess neither. Preparation is often seen as the key to survival. Bring the right gear, enough water, a map, and a good sense of direction, and you'll be fine, right? Not in the Outback. Here, your carefully assembled survival kit is more like a polite suggestion than a guarantee. The land is not impressed by your checklist. Let's start with water. You may bring 5 liters per person per day, as recommended, but in the Outback's scorching heat, even that won't suffice. The air is so dry that moisture leaves your body before you notice. Sweat evaporates instantly, leaving no visual cue that dehydration is creeping in. Your lips crack, your urine darkens, your thoughts scatter, and still the sun bakes down. You sip conservatively, trying to ration what's left, but the Outback demands more than your rations allow. Then there's food. Dehydrated meals are light and compact, but they require water to cook, water you might not have. And while high-energy snacks keep your body moving, they can also dehydrate you further. Salt, sugar, caffeine, all increase your thirst. You'll find that your appetite fades under the weight of fatigue and heat. Food becomes a burden, not a comfort. Your map? It might be accurate, but the land it represents changes constantly. Flash floods erase landmarks. Dust storms obscure paths. Tracks made by vehicles disappear overnight under layers of red sand. The Outback doesn't care that you were just here an hour ago. It rearranges itself while you're not looking. Technology, too, becomes unreliable. GPS batteries drain faster in extreme heat. Cell service is non-existent in many areas. Solar chargers fail under dust-caked skies. And if your emergency beacon malfunctions, or worse, if you never learn how to use it, then you're just a blinking red light waiting to be found. Hopefully. Even clothing can betray you. You may wear breathable UV protective fabrics, but after days without shade, the sun seeps through. Shoes designed for long hikes wear down faster on rocky terrain. Blisters bloom beneath your soles. And if you brought too much gear, the weight becomes punishment. Every unnecessary item feels like a mistake, a pound of regret dragging behind you. Insects ignore your repellent. Flies swarm your eyes and mouth, immune to every brand of spray you brought. Mosquitoes find the 1 square inch of skin you left exposed. You sleep in a tent to escape them, but the heat inside turns it into an oven. You choose between sweating or swatting. You might bring a first aid kit, bandages, antiseptics, anti-venom if you're lucky. But what if the wound needs stitches? What if you break a bone falling down a ridge? What if the venom reaches your heart before the adrenaline? What if you simply run out of supplies? The Outback doesn't care how much you planned. It tests how well you adapt. It rewards patience, humility, and listening, not hubris. The moment you think you're ready is the moment it shows you that you're not. Out here, survival isn't a matter of what you packed. It's what you learn when it's already too late. At midday, when the Australian Outback's heat is at its most unforgiving, the land seems still. But as you scan the parched horizon, shadows shimmer and distort across the baked earth, bending reality in ways that deceive more than just your eyes. In this environment, shadows don't just hide danger. They become part of it. Out here, heat waves ripple off the surface like liquid glass, creating mirages that dance across the landscape. That tree in the distance, it might be a heat-distorted termite mound. That shimmering pool of water, a cruel illusion. Your brain, deprived of moisture and overwhelmed by brightness, starts to interpret false signals. Shapes lose definition. The ground appears to shift. You find yourself walking towards something that was never there. These visual distortions are more than inconvenient. They're dangerous. Navigation becomes guesswork. Landmarks appear and vanish. The same stretch of land looks different from hour to hour. You begin to question your memory, your sense of direction, even your sanity. The Outback doesn't move, but it makes you feel like it does. And then there are the real shadows, the ones that hold life. Snakes basking in the shade of a rock, motionless until your foot gets too close. Spiders hiding beneath bark. Scorpions curled beneath discarded tin. The darkness here isn't just cool, it's occupied. Every crack and crevice is a potential den. And unlike in forests or jungles where sound betrays motion, the Outback is silent. Its predators wait without a sound. Even man-made structures aren't safe. An abandoned shed might offer brief respite from the sun, But behind every doorframe or under every rusted toolbox, something waits. Shadows here aren't just absence of light. They're camouflage. They're weapons. Your own shadow becomes suspect. As the sun drops lower, it stretches across the red dust in eerie proportions. The temperature drops, but unease grows. Every shape seems exaggerated, distorted. Familiar silhouettes lose their trustworthiness. You start to flinch at movements that aren't there. You begin to expect the ground to shift beneath your feet. At night, the moon casts silver shadows that mimic life. A breeze stirs tall grass, and you jump, certain you saw something move. The landscape becomes a theater of silhouettes, each more menacing than the last. The silence makes it worse. Your brain fills in the gaps with imagined threats. In the outback, shadows aren't boundaries between light and dark. They're illusions. They're traps. And you're a traveler trying to read a language that's constantly being rewritten. There's a certain kind of solitude that comes with standing in the middle of the Australian outback. The horizon stretches endlessly in all directions, broken only by scraggly bushes, rust-colored rock formations, and the occasional lonely tree. You may not see another soul for miles. But make no mistake, you are not alone. From the moment you step foot on this ancient land, the outback is watching. Not in a mythical or supernatural sense, but in the very real way that countless creatures monitor your presence. Some out of curiosity, others out of instinct, and some out of hunger. Birds circle high above, not just eagles and hawks, but the clever and opportunistic Australian ravens, their cries echoing across the heat waves like ghostly warnings. At ground level, you're being tracked by dingoes, wild dogs that have survived here for thousands of years. They are silent, calculating, and patient. You'll likely never see them, but they will see you. And then there's the monitor lizard, known locally as the goanna. It's large, reptilian, and ancient-looking, moving with a confidence that suggests it's never had to fear anything. It can smell carrion from kilometers away. If you drop food or worse, bleed, it may appear silently from the brush. Even smaller creatures, ants, wasps, beetles, watch from burrows and bark. The meat ant colonies span entire patches of terrain and are hypersensitive to vibration. You step too close to their nest and you'll trigger a wave of stinging fury that crawls up your boots and down your nerves. You begin to notice patterns, footprints in the sand that don't match yours, fresh droppings where there should be none, scratches on bark, tufts of fur caught on fences, bones whitened by the sun. The signs of others are everywhere. The outback is far from empty. Then comes the realization that human solitude out here can be dangerous. If something goes wrong, you fall, you're bitten, you're disoriented. There's no one to call. The silence amplifies your thoughts, your fears. You might hear your own heartbeat over the wind. Worse, the outback holds remnants of people long gone. Abandoned mining equipment, crumbling homesteads, campfires turned to ash. And with these remnants comes the uncanny sense that others once stood exactly where you're standing and didn't make it out. At night, this presence becomes oppressive. The sounds of life return, the rustle of grass, the yip of dingoes, the distant drone of insects too numerous to count. You turn at every noise, uncertain whether what's out there is harmless or hostile. And through it all, the stars stare down with cold indifference. In the outback, solitude is a mirage. You are never truly alone. But that knowledge offers no comfort. Instead, it invites a deeper kind of fear. Not that you'll be forgotten, but that something already remembers you. When you picture the Australian outback, you might imagine harsh sun rays scorching a cracked red earth. And you'd be right. But what you might not expect is that the very places that appear to offer relief, groves of trees, towering rocks, narrow ravines, often provide no comfort at all. Because in the outback, shade is not a sanctuary. It's often just a different kind of danger. The outback sun doesn't merely warm, it dominates. It boils the air, bleaches the ground, and cooks anything exposed for too long. In the open, temperatures easily soar above 45 degrees C, 113 degrees C, and surfaces, like the metal of a car or the sand beneath your feet, can reach nearly double that. Skin burns in minutes. Your eyes squint against the glare until even blinking feels painful. So naturally you seek shade. But when you reach a rock overhang or the sparse shadow of a eucalyptus tree, you realize the relief is an illusion. The air doesn't feel cooler. It's just stagnant. The breeze, if there was any, disappears completely. The rocks have absorbed hours of solar energy, and they radiate it back toward you like a furnace. You crouch low, desperate for a break from the assaulting brightness, only to find the heat pressing from every side. The shade becomes a trap. Inside narrow gorges or tight tree stands, the lack of airflow makes it harder for sweat to evaporate, halting your body's natural cooling system. You might stop moving to rest, but your body temperature keeps rising. This is how heat stroke creeps in, not with a dramatic collapse, but through a slow, invisible suffocation of your internal thermostat. And then there's what lives in the shade. Under rocks and logs dwell the stone geckos, the sand goannas, and other reptiles that hunt or hide from the sun. Spiders retreat into bark crevices, emerging when disturbed. Snakes coil beneath shrubs or in the shadowed hollows of old trees, invisible until it's far too late. What seems like a safe patch of darkness may be a predator's den. Even insects congregate in the shadows. In the heat, they too flee the sun, and your body becomes the nearest cool surface. Flies, mosquitoes, and parasitic ticks descend upon you when you least expect them, bringing disease, irritation, and more reason to panic. The psychological toll is subtle. You begin to mistrust every decision. Do you press on in the sunlight, risking burns and exhaustion? Or do you gamble on the shadow and what it might conceal? There's no right answer. There's no perfect choice, only risk in different forms. By sunset, the land glows like hot metal, and the shadows stretch long and thin. But even then, the heat lingers, the rocks still bake, the wind still carries warmth. The night brings cooler air, but also new predators, new dangers, and a renewed sense of exposure. In the outback, there is no shelter, only different degrees of threat. The shade doesn't save you. It hides what might end you. In most parts of the world, rest is something you can steal. A moment in the shade, a nap in the afternoon, the pause between steps. But in the Australian outback, rest is a mirage. Every place that looks calm hides something sharp, crawling, or poisonous. Every quiet moment is surrounded by the potential for violent interruption. The heat alone refuses to let you relax. Even under a tree or rock, the air presses on your chest. Your sweat clings, not as relief, but as warning. Muscles cramp from dehydration and overuse. Feet blister, backs ache, and yet you keep moving. Because the moment you stop, the outback begins to take advantage. Lay down and the ground pushes back. The earth is hard, uneven, and covered in ants or thorny spinifex. Resting in the open invites sunstroke. In the shade, it's worse. Things live there. You might close your eyes only to feel the prick of a spider's legs across your arm, or hear the hiss of something bigger in the grass. Even at night, rest eludes you. You may be exhausted, but the cold of the desert night replaces the sun's heat with a bitter edge. The wind picks up, carrying fine dust that clings to your skin and mouth. The silence becomes overwhelming, until it's broken by the sudden call of a night predator or the skittering of something nearby. Sleep becomes an invitation to vulnerability. Dingoes sniff your pack. Centipedes creep into boots. Your body tries to relax, but the brain stays alert. A twig snapping becomes a thunderclap. A breath of wind across your neck feels like claws. You toss and turn, never truly drifting off, heart pounding beneath the stars. You brought a tent, perhaps? In the outback, tents become ovens by day and flimsy paper shields at night. Everything wants in. Mosquitoes, sandflies, beetles. Your fabric shelter flaps in the breeze like a signal flag to all the creatures that prowl after sunset. And worst of all, rest brings dreams. But not the comforting kind. Dreams of being lost, of thirst, of suffocating in red dust. Your subconscious picks up where your fear left off, playing twisted loops of anxiety until dawn bleeds across the sky. In the Outback, rest is not relief, it's surrender. And the Outback does not take kindly to weakness. The harshest threats in the Outback aren't the ones that snarl or charge. They're the ones you don't see, the ones that slither, sit, or stay perfectly still until the moment strikes. This land is a masterclass in camouflage, and its most dangerous inhabitants have evolved not to chase you, but to let you come to them. Take the death adder, for instance. It doesn't flee, it doesn't rattle. It lies in the dirt, its pattern blending so seamlessly with the sand and leaf litter that your eyes slide right past it. Step too close, and it strikes with such speed you won't register pain until you're already on the ground. Or the stonefish, lurking in shallow creeks and watering holes. It resembles a rock, a harmless, motionless rock, until your foot lands on it and its dorsal spines inject venom that turns muscle to jelly and sends waves of agony through your entire body. One wrong step, one moment of distraction, and what looked like safety becomes trauma. Even insects play the game. The recluse spider hides behind bark or under debris, waiting for fingers to brush too close. Its bite doesn't announce itself immediately. Hours later, your skin blackens, peels, and decays. The pain builds, not just physically, but mentally. The knowledge that your moment of carelessness was all, the invitation it needed. Then there are the ambush predators, creatures like the Woma python, which buries itself in the sand and strikes upward, or the frilled neck lizard, which can remain utterly still until provoked. They are not inherently aggressive, but when they react, it's explosive. It's not just the predators either. Plants join in the deceit. Spiked acacias that appear as benign shrubs hide needle-like thorns, capable of slicing open boots. Stinging trees, more common in the tropical north, have made their rare appearances inland. Leaves that look soft and inviting, but carry a chemical cocktail that burns and lingers for months. Your instincts betray you. The colorful might be dangerous, or not. The drab might be safe, or fatal. There are no rules. Your eyes dart constantly, trying to make sense of shapes and shadows. Is that a stick, or a snake? A clump of dirt, or something breathing slowly beneath the surface? Paranoia becomes a survival tactic. You prod the eyed ground before you sit. You kick at rocks before stepping over them. You scan branches before leaning. But the Outback rewards patience, not yours, but its own. Something is always still, always waiting. And in the end, you understand the truth. In this land, the moment you feel safest is often the moment you're in the most danger. In most environments, a map means safety. It offers direction, context, and a sense of control. But in the Australian Outback, a map is just a theory. The land doesn't recognize your neatly drawn lines. The terrain shifts subtly with time, erosion, and fire. Trails vanish, roads fade, rivers run dry. You may have a compass, a GPS, even satellite images. But the land refuses to be predictable. What looked like a shortcut becomes a detour. What appeared to be a landmark is now a pile of rubble or an overgrown thicket. The Outback is in constant transformation, and it doesn't care if you're trying to make sense of it. Your route might be correct on paper, but on the ground it's blocked by impassable ravines, fallen trees, or walls of cracked clay that seem to materialize from nowhere. And then there's the heat. As temperatures rise, your brain slows. Concentration slips. You misread the symbols. You second-guess your path. Is that the dry riverbed marked on your page? Or is it a different one, identical in every way except the one that matters? One leads home. The other leads deeper in. Technology helps. Until it doesn't. GPS devices lose signal. Batteries fail in extreme temperatures. Phones overheat. Even the best satellite trackers have blind spots beneath dense canopies or in narrow gorges. Your lifeline becomes a paperweight. Maps can't show you everything. They don't show the wild dog dens, the washed-out bridges, or the sudden appearance of brush fires sparked by lightning or the sun's focused heat. They don't capture the psychological terrain, the mounting panic when every tree starts to look the same, when the sun is no longer overhead but off to the side, and you realize you've been walking in circles. Out here, navigation becomes instinctual. You rely on the angle of shadows, the shape of termite mounds, the flight path of birds. You look to the stars at night, if clouds allow. You count steps, mark trees, stack stones, but even these can betray you. Winds erase footprints, animals knock down markers. The very environment conspires against certainty. You meet others who got lost, not in person, in the kaura, form of notes etched into wood, old trails with forgotten boot prints, rusted signposts warning of closed tracks. They tried to follow the map too. They thought it would be enough. And so, you learn the hard truth. In the Outback, the map is not the territory. The territory doesn't care what you think it should be. In most places, night signals relief. The sun sets, temperatures fall, and danger seems to retreat. But in the Outback, darkness doesn't bring peace. It changes the rules. What was difficult by day becomes treacherous by night. Every sound is amplified. Every shadow stretches longer. And the quiet becomes something you can feel pressing against your chest. When the sun finally dips below the horizon, the heat doesn't disappear immediately. The rocks baked all day radiate warmth long into the evening, turning the air into a lingering furnace. Then comes the cold. Not gradual, but sudden. You go from sweating to shivering in the span of minutes, your body unprepared for the violent shift. The night introduces a different kind of isolation. The vastness that felt empty by day now feels suffocating. The stars are endless, and so is your vulnerability. The land you thought you recognized transforms into a maze of darkness. Your eyes strain to make sense of the vague outlines. Trees become silhouettes of predators. Rocks look like hunched creatures waiting for you to stumble past. Then come the sounds. At night, the Outback sings. But it's no lullaby. The howls of dingoes echo across dry plains. The screech of night birds, barn owls, frogmouths, pierce the silence. Insects emerge in droves, buzzing, chirping, biting. You feel them before you hear them. Moths as large as your palm flit by your face. Spiders descend silently on silk threads. You brush something off your leg but never quite see what it was. Sleep, if it comes, is shallow. You lay in a tent that flaps and pops in the wind, every rustle convincing you that something is outside. You hear footsteps that might be kangaroo or something else. The line between real and imagined danger blurs. Your flashlight beam feels pathetically thin against the weight of the dark. And the dangers don't rest either. Venomous snakes hunt at night, more active when the temperature drops. Spiders crawl into shoes. Bats swoop low, feeding on insects drawn to your lantern. Predators that avoid the heat of the day begin to stalk. Navigation becomes almost impossible. Landmarks vanish. Trails disappear. The moon might help, or it might be hidden behind clouds, leaving you with nothing but your instincts and fear. You hesitate with every step, unsure what's beneath your foot. By morning, exhaustion has set in. You're sleep-deprived, dehydrated, mentally frayed. And when the sun rises again, it's not a blessing. It's a countdown. Another brutal day begins. In the Outback, nightfall doesn't end your struggle. It redefines it. Dawn comes like a false promise. After surviving the eerie, chill and creeping horrors of the Outback night, the return of sunlight might feel like salvation, but it's not. It's an announcement. The furnace has reopened. At first, the light creeps in gently, casting long shadows and painting the red earth in soft gold. But within the hour, The heat returns with ruthless speed. Temperatures soar past 40 degrees, 104 degree before mid-morning. There's no breeze, only a thick, dry stillness that clings to your skin like a second layer. You feel it immediately in your chest. Each breath burns a little. Your lips crack. Your throat rasps. You're already dehydrated, but now even your sweat starts to dry before it finishes forming. The sun isn't just hot, it's invasive. It beats down from above, reflects up from the sand, and wraps around from every direction. There's no escaping it. If you try to move, every step feels heavier than the last. The soles of your boots grow soft from heat. Your shadow shortens and sharpens until it's directly beneath you, offering no guidance, no comfort. Your skin tingles, then prickles, then starts to scream. You seek shade, but there is none. Trees are rare. Rocks radiate the heat they absorbed the day before. Even your own clothing feels like it's burning you. You pour water over your head, and it evaporates instantly. You can't tell if you're sweating anymore. Your vision begins to waver. The horizon ripples. Mirages dance, offering phantom pools of relief just out of reach. But you know their lies. And, worse, you start to forget you know. Your thoughts become sluggish. Words feel distant. Tasks like checking your compass or tying a knot become monumental undertakings. If you're unlucky, or just human, heat stroke begins to set in. Your body's natural cooling systems fail. Core temperature rises, dizziness follows. Your heart races, muscles cramp. You feel nauseous, confused. You might begin to hallucinate. You stumble, fall, get up, fall again. The sun bears witness. Indifferent. There's a reason seasoned Outback travelers stop by noon. It's not laziness, it's survival. The sun is strongest from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., a window where the environment becomes not just hostile, but actively lethal. Everything slows. Even animals seek shelter underground or in shaded burrows. Only the toughest or the most desperate roam during these hours. And yet, if you're lost, you might have no choice. You press on, staggering across cracked earth, past termite mounds and brittle shrubs. The land yawns ahead, unchanged and unchanging. Time bends. Minutes feel like hours. You start talking to yourself, then forget what you were saying. You dream of cold water, not as fantasy, but with the intensity of addiction. When you finally reach evening, if you do, you're not the same. The sun has taken something. Energy, clarity, hope. And you know that when darkness falls again, it won't be peace that meets you, only the next set of trials. In the Outback, surviving the night is only half the battle. The real challenge begins with the sunrise.